Hello, welcome to Not Without My Sister, the podcast where two very insightful and intelligent sisters, well, one, me, Rosemary McCabe, and my sister,
I was about to say, where two very insightful and intelligent sisters do not make any kind of entrance, and instead you're going to have to listen to myself and my sister, Beatrice and Rosemary.
If you don't know already, we have now got a Patreon where for $5 a month you can sign up and get a super special extra party bonus episode every single week. So some months you'll get 5 for just $5 a month. That's at patreon.com/notwithoutmysister. Today we thought we would talk about how we feel about emigration. Now that I'm an old hand, having been in America for a year and a half, and you're an even older hand, having emigrated, how long ago? 20 years? What? 16 years, 17 years?
Bint face.
Yeah, it's almost 20 years.
20-something years, 21 years, yeah.
Jesus.
21 years, and I still think I'm going back.
You're not.
I am. The L sod.
You know, people very frequently ask me, like, what'll you do if Beatrice goes back?
When? Get it in your head. When? What'll you do? What'll you do when
No.
you
What's going to happen is you no. The plan is,
and I'm in array. What'll you do?
no. The plan is you're going to get your citizenship. Mom and Dad are going to get their old people green cards, and then we're all going to be here and delighted.
Oh, I'm going to be in Ireland. They're going to be 6 months here and 6 months there, and then we'll all be delighted.
I don't think they'd be delighted with that.
They'd be delighted.
Dad wouldn't be able to bring his plane over every 6 months.
If he gets a green card, oh yeah, he can be here.
All the time.
Ad nauseum, yeah. They don't want to come over here. Like, they don't have their friends and their social circles, and they're too old to be starting over in a country.
How dare you?
But I mean, like, they have such robust social circles. They're not coming over. They're not coming here to live. But at least a green card would allow them to come
Whenever they want, for however long they want.
Especially as we're discovering now during this pandemic, not having a green card is a major
barrier to entry.
Correct. And Don and I recently went to look at our passports and realised that nearly all of them are out of date, and the baby doesn't have one yet. So we have to go and renew them.
She won't be going anywhere for a while with the kids.
We'd go to Ireland to see Gran and Grandpa if they can't come here.
Even if the kids weren't vaccinated, would you go, do you think?
No, I would prefer not to, right?
So I think it'll be a while, so don't worry about it.
But I mean, wearing masks, I potentially would. Yes, I would bring them. Like if President Biden, as mother's best friend, Joe, mom's best friend, Joe. I mean, can't even. So we were planning to see if there was any way to get mom and dad in. You know, recently there was an announcement that ban on incoming travel from the Schengen areas was not about to be lifted. And we had inquired as to, you know, what we might need to submit in terms of papers, etc., documents.
To get a humanitarian exemption through the embassy in Dublin, basically, yeah.
So I'm talking to mom on the phone. I go, have you got that letter from your doctor? Absolutely. And there's no chance of us getting that. And I go, okay, well, like, we actually don't know that. Could you get the letter? I was actually probably very cross, to be quite honest, and then had to call up and apologise when I got home and realised she'd sent me a bunch of flowers. Felt like an absolute bitch. But anyway, and she was delighted as well.
She didn't send the flowers in relation to that conversation. Just
no, understand it.
They were separate.
It was a 10-minute conversation. Like, it was 10 minutes later that the flowers were here.
No, but just so that our listeners know. She wasn't like, I had a fight with my daughter, I must send her flowers.
Unrelated.
She's not that kind of person.
Unrelated. So it was extra bad because she'd been thinking such nice things about me that she sent me a bunch of flowers, and then I was having a fight with her on the phone. Anyway.
You bitch.
I know. And I go, Mom, like, seriously, you know, we have to try whatever we can to try and get you over here. It's been too long. It's been nearly 2 years. She goes, well, I'm thinking I'll write to Joe.
Maybe she meant Joe Duffy.
She did not mean Joe Duffy.
I said she didn't.
No, she goes, the president. She goes, although probably he won't answer it. Probably like his secretary will read it. I'm like, why is it easier to write to Joe Biden than it is to ask your doctor for a letter?
Yeah, but also, as you said, like, do you think Joe Biden would say, okay, well, I can see here that you've got a letter from the embassy asking for XYZ. Did you send them those things? She'd be like, no. Exactly. That was too much work. I just thought I'd write to you.
Yeah, exactly. Thought I'd write to you, Joe, because you're from Ireland.
But also, I love how Mom, like, having seen, as you said, having seen us go through the rigmarole of applying for visas and the documentation that you need, she was like, oh, they've asked for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And most of it was from us. So I don't even know what the problem was.
It was actually grand. It was just like, you write a letter explaining your circumstances. I write a letter. I get a letter from my doctor saying, like, I am indeed pregnant and it would be great to have family here.
I haven't done mine yet. Yeah, I haven't done mine yet, even though I was given out to her.
I haven't done mine yet either. But that's because I'm like, Mom's not going to do hers for weeks.
I plan on doing it.
I did ask my doctor.
Yeah, good job. Good job.
Thanks.
So all that to say, yeah, I don't think they would ever come and live here. I just doesn't think it would make sense. Like they have such massive social circles, friends. Dad's a member of SAC, of course he is.
It's not SAC anymore. It's ILAS.
Oh,
What are you even his daughter? It's the Irish Light Aircraft Society.
21 years, Rosemary. 21 years.
You know, don't listen when Dad talks. He never talks either.
He doesn't talk to me. He doesn't text me, and he doesn't reply to my texts.
No, he doesn't text me either, unless I send him pictures of baked goods or say something about Brandon.
Or, as in yesterday, when I send an acronym that is actually a curse, which I really enjoyed. WTF, Mother writes back. Pull it up there. Mother writes back. What does this mean? That was actually very
ridiculous.
enjoyable.
It was ridiculous.
And my favourite was...
But she knows what it means.
Of course she does.
Oh,
she
good.
was just being facetious. No, she got more than she expected, I'll tell you.
She goes, what's WTF? Beatrice says, what's Tuesday for? Mom says, why try first? I say, whose turn, Father? Beatrice says, wet, tight front bum.
I didn't say that.
You did say that. Dad says, water the flowers. I, in response to Beatrice's wet, tight front bum, said, Beatrice, honestly, why lower the tone? Beatrice says, why, thanks, friend. What's that for? Philip says, will this fit? I said, too far, Dad. Jesus. And a vomit emoji. And then Beatrice says, Rosemary, way too far. That was the end of that.
Yeah, and Mom didn't even answer again. She obviously just rolled her eyes and left.
On. She went on to read the newspaper then.
She's so annoying. So those are the only kinds of texts that will get any kind of engagement from Dad.
Yeah, a good pun.
Yeah, so unless we get his green card, he's never going to talk to us again. We're never going to hear the sound of his dulcet tones again. And he's at home getting so thin that we better get him over
his
here.
Cucumbers.
Well, his clothes are falling off. We better get him over here pronto before he's like in no state to travel anymore. I've forgotten what he looks like.
You know what's funny? Who was asking me the other day? Anyway, just like talking about emigrating and talking about moving over here. And I was saying to whoever I was talking to, I was like, if I had known, because when I came over, I was like, okay, I'm coming over on this O1 visa.
What is this wisdom about to be? What is this wisdom?
If you wait, I might get to finish it and tell you. I'm coming over on this O1 visa. It's a 3-year visa. I'm dating this guy. Like, I'm going to do my writing from America. Let's see how it goes. It was very kind of open in my mind. And I probably assumed I would come home. You know what I mean? That I was like, I'll go over for a year or two. I'll end up back in Ireland. And also my original plan was I was like going to come back in May for a friend's wedding. I was going to come back in September again. Mom and Dad were going to come over for Christmas. If I had known that I wouldn't get home for, now it'll probably be 2 years minimum really, because I won't want to fly. I basically won't want to go through an airport with COVID with a baby, right? If somebody had said to me, okay, you can get this visa, you can go over, you can date this guy, you can do your writing, but you cannot come home for 2 years, I would never have come.
And now?
And now I'm so glad I did. Like, obviously I'm so glad I did. So much has happened. Like, I'm so happy with where I am now.
An award-winning podcast.
An award-winning podcast. What award?
Listen, that's just the way the world works now. You say it and that makes it so.
Yeah.
An award-winning podcast.
Yes, that's called manifesting.
Yeah.
We're manifesting. An award-winning podcast, a to-be best-selling book, a genius baby, a devoted, loving and caring and pampering husband.
Okay, you're getting a bit carried
2
away
very
here.
well-behaved stepchildren.
Oh.
Like a gorgeous new house. A dog whose toenails never, like, cut to the quick when he jumps up at you.
A cat who doesn't attack you.
Oh, yeah. Cat who absolutely loves me and never tries to bite me. All these things I would never have had.
Hey, what about us?
Oh, yeah. You guys.
Thanks. Yeah. You'd have none of those things.
No, but also, like...
An almost completed book.
An almost completed book. I would also not have, like, the great relationship that we now have. Which, like,
we've always
had a good relationship.
But
great
relationship.
Yeah, but, like, we're closer now than we ever have
I know,
been.
because you've matured a lot since you came over here.
Why?
You were very frivolous before. You didn't understand real life. Now that you're here and you have all the things that you mentioned a minute ago, now you understand what it's like not to just be me.
You were very frivolous before. Your nostrils are going 90. You should actually bog off. You're so annoying.
But now you have to like put other people first. So you
really
understand.
don't.
You understand the sacrifice involved.
Oh my God, you should have seen the sulks the other day when I came down and realised the 2 kids had eaten my favourite cereal. Finished it.
Oh my God.
I was in a rage.
Were you really?
Well, I was, because it was this like organic bran flakes that I read that they don't like. and they had asked for it for their breakfast, and like their dad should just have known that they don't like it. So then they ended up with 2 big mushy bowls of it in the sink.
Sounds like you did your favourite. Sounds gross.
It was nice. I really like brown flakes. Anyway, the point is, yeah, like when I came, I never imagined that I would be coming.
Did we
with
say
no way
married?
back,
Did we say finally the ring on the finger?
No, we didn't. Finally, the ring on the finger, the signature on the certificate. Pregnant.
Yeah.
Well, I said with a soon-to-be genius baby.
Oh, you did say that. Yeah.
But yeah, and you know what it was? I was talking to Brandon's grandma about this because we went over to his grandma's house to watch.
To who?
Brandon's grandma. Well, his Baba actually is what he calls her.
Grandma is what you actually said. Grandma. Okay.
Brandon's grandma. Because we went over to watch. His cousin was in the Olympics.
Very impressive. You wouldn't have had
a very impressive athletic family.
Exactly. That's
never before in my life.
No.
and never could have imagined it. But yeah,
no, but we can go ahead and play badminton in a minute.
Oh, stop! I'm too pregnant. Too tired. Anyway, yeah, I was talking to his grandma and saying, like, this is dramatic, but like, I almost feel like it's in the olden days. You know, when like people would get the boat to America and know that they're never going home because it's too expensive and it's too long. And I'm like, I could never have done that because I always have felt like such a homebody and like I can't be away from home for more than 3 months or 6 months or whatever.
Plus, you've seen Titanic.
Yeah, but like if it was back in the olden days, I wouldn't have seen Titanic.
Correct, but you have seen. I'm saying, so of course you couldn't go on one of those ships.
Well, I was actually thinking of getting one of those ships over when I was looking into ways of getting Quillon over. Because you can bring her over on the QE2, but it's ridiculously expensive.
Oh, is it? God, that sounds nice though.
I know, it would be nice, wouldn't it?
Would it?
Very luxurious.
Would I be getting sick?
Well, hopefully not. And hopefully no icebergs.
Well,
I mean, touch wood, it'd be nice.
Well, climate change, who knows? Probably icebergs all floating around now, ready to attack you.
No, I think there's no icebergs now. That's the whole point.
But aren't they like detached from the solid mass? They're probably floating around ready to charge you at any moment.
What do they call them? Ice sheets or something?
Ice floats. Is that a drink?
That's a drink.
Okay, keep going.
We're getting off on a very stupid tangent.
Sorry, Mr. Corey.
Very low
my geography. My geography's left me.
Sorry, Miss Dempsey. Yeah, but and like in a way, it's been nice because I think if I had been going back home and back, I probably would be a lot more homesick. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I'd probably go home for 2 weeks and be like, oh, delighted to see everyone and delighted to eat all the pastries. And then I'd be back here going, oh, the shit bread.
But you wouldn't be eating any of those things because you're saying if there was no pandemic.
If there was no pandemic and I was able to go home, I think it actually, not being able to go home for the last year and a half has meant that I kind of had to settle in more and quicker. You know what I mean?
I understand it's made you extend your Uachtarard roots under Fort Wayne. So now you are a homebody here versus a homebody there.
Kind of, yeah.
Your body has homed here.
Yeah, I think I've settled in a lot more than I would have if I was breaking up my time with going home. And also it's kind of because when I first came over, I was like, oh my God, I'll have to go home at least 2, if not 3 times a year. Whereas now I'm kind of like, I'll go home once or twice. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I feel much more relaxed about it now in a weird way. That's not to say that I'm like, it's been great and I'm so glad I haven't been able to go home. But I suppose if I'm looking for the silver linings, those are they. And like, how do you feel? Like, you've been in America obviously way longer than me. Like, do you feel like this is your home now? Obviously not, because you're still talking about going home.
Yeah, I don't.
And do you think you ever have, or do you think, is it because you have never let yourself? Do you know what I mean? Because you've always gone, you always have it in the back of your head that you're going to go home.
No, I think the last couple of years have just been very polarizing, right, politically. And we're living in the Midwest, which is definitely not a liberal enclave. Probably felt much more at home in New York where, I mean, honestly, you know, people talk about like we lived in a bubble or like those guys live in a bubble. I'm like, give me back my bubble quite happily. I was happy living in my bubble. Yeah.
Would you go back to New York?
No, probably not like with the kids, you know. I think it would be a lot of like, it's easy to live here. It is very easy to live in Fort Wayne. I do like Fort Wayne, but I mean, I think just the American politics, I miss the Irish humour. I miss Irish food. I miss Irish bread, which everybody's probably sick of us talking about. I miss mom and dad. You know, I really miss for my kids. I miss them having extended family.
The family, yeah.
Like Don and I were talking this morning because obviously now we don't know when mom and dad are going to come. Obviously, we were hoping that they would be here. Ideally, they will still be here before your baby arrives. We hope. We don't know. But I was really expecting them to be able to be here by August or September, you know. And I was saying, this never occurred to me. I was saying to Don, like, when mom and dad, like, in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, in 20 years' time, when mom and dad, like, are not around anymore, just a terrible thing to think about. But who do we, like, this will be our life. Do you know what I mean? And it feels not vast in terms of the people that we know and the social circle that we have. Like, I do have friends, but I don't have, like, not having family. Like, I have you now, which is very nice. Still kind of not used to that, you know? So,
Yeah.
but having, like, having extended family, cousins you can drop into, cups of tea that you can just say, I'm coming over to you on a Saturday, like, my head's wrecked and I'm coming over.
Yeah.
Or let's meet up for coffee. Like, I miss that. I miss Dublin. I miss the culture of, like, the Irish culture. I miss the ability to drive places, you know, in an hour and be somewhere interesting.
Well, not if you I mean, from where we lived, but if you live in Dublin City Centre, you drive an hour, you're still in Dublin City Centre now.
Yeah, but, like, you're probably still also somewhere interesting. Like, there's stuff to do everywhere you go. Whereas here you could drive for 5 hours to get to, like,
a cornfield in the middle of
you know, I mean,
Ohio.
or, you know, somebody said something about Fort Wayne's great. Fort Wayne's amazing because we're 2.5 hours away from lots of really interesting places. And I was like, 2.5 hours? That's my summer holiday. That's the full drive. You know, I mean, I do like it. I appreciate all of the opportunity here, and but I really miss I felt the same living in Paris and Italy as well. There's just a shared culture that I don't understand, like, that I don't have access to, like, that shared, I think there is a word for it, but, like, there's a whole, especially in Italy, I felt like the in-jokes, the shared cultural knowledge that you have from growing up as a baby, you don't have. Like, my kids, I watched it's called Song of the Sea. Is that really adorable cartoon that I cried so hard? Of course.
Can barely believe it.
I know. I cried so hard. I watched with my kids, and, like, every time one of them would be like, I need popcorn, I need to go to the toilet, I was like, sit down and embrace your heritage. But, like, at the end of it, I went off on a big buying spree of, like, books about Irish lore and Irish culture, because I'm like, they don't understand that. They don't have that. They don't, like, we just understand who is Cuchulainn, who is Setanta. Like, we understand all those things, and they're all references that when you read even the newspaper, like, all these references are alluded to, like, and not necessarily those specific ones, but, like, the culture of being Irish, that even if you move somewhere when you're 20, you can't immerse yourself in that. Like, that's by osmosis you've learned those things, you know?
Yeah, it's from growing up.
Yeah. And so I'm sad about that for my kids, like, that they don't have that. They could still have it, but they don't have it now. And maybe I should be doing a better job giving it to them.
But then I wonder, like,
Irish dancing.
At what age, like, if you moved home to Ireland in the next 5 years, will Nash always feel like he's American? Probably.
Yeah, I know. And, well, I think that's one of the big things. I mean, I think it depends, like, how much he enjoys Ireland, how much he enjoys. I think he would really enjoy being with his cousins, and, like, there are a lot of cousins his age or a little bit older, you know.
Well, so, his cousins once removed or whatever. Yeah. But, like, but the extended family.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think, there's a certain tipping point. What is that threshold? I'd actually love if anybody has any thoughts on that. If anybody has lived abroad with, you know, their kids and moved home, I think there's a moment where I'm like, I don't want to, it would be pointless to move to Ireland and have Nash going, like, I just can't wait to be moving back to the States.
I know, which, like, I think when he's like 15, 16, that probably will be what will.
Yeah. So, like, I was even thinking about going to secondary school. Can you join mid secondary school? Like, would it just be too hard to pick up, like, what's going on in biology? What is going on in this geography? Like, it's an entirely different curriculum.
He wouldn't have to do Irish. That'd be, like, an advantage for him.
Would he not?
No, if you've lived in a foreign country up to a certain point, you get an exemption.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was an English girl in our secondary school who joined, like, at one point and didn't have to do Irish.
Oh.
Which, like, thank God, because, like, not thank God, like, I'd love him to learn Irish, but imagine how hard it would be.
Yeah, but then if he ever wants to be a teacher or a policeman, he has to do it anyway, doesn't he? Do you know what he
doesn't have to do it for the guards anymore, because you can you can be born in a different country and become a guard now.
Oh, that's good.
So you don't have to do the Irish, but to be a teacher, yeah.
I'm only saying this because, like, he announced the other day, yesterday actually, that he's thinking of going to college, which is the first time ever.
I thought he told someone he was going to Yale recently.
No, he told a friend of his he was going to Harvard, and I was like, are you? Because I'm not saving for that. So
maybe he'll get a sports scholarship. He's getting good at the badminton.
He's a very good swimmer.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not sure. Well, like, he's a good swimmer, but I don't think he's going to get into college on a scholarship on the current swimming levels. He's going to do lessons. That's all I mean.
What? Are you going to be this encouraging with your own child?
Yeah.
God, it's great. It's really, really encouraging. Thanks for that.
I'm going to be like, you're going to Indiana, you're going to IU. Because
you could move back to Ireland. Would you move back to Ireland? I know Brandon has kids, but like assuming they're grown up, and because I mean, the thing is, the reality is like we talk about our kids this way, but by the time your kid is older, like they'll have flown the nest. They could be living in Europe for all you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's very attached to his family though.
He is very, but I mean, like, boo-hoo, I'm very attached to my family. We could go and live with my family for a while.
That's true. You could go for a while. You don't have to go forever.
I mean, I talk about it sometimes and I'm like, when the kids are 18 now, we'll like go back to Ireland. Like, I think he's open to it, that he'd be like, I'll go back for, like I'd go for a couple of years and see if we like it. But I think because he's from Fort Wayne and I'm thinking of the practical things. There's such a low cost of living here. I think that would be a huge culture shock. That would be a huge shock for the two of us.
I know the minute petrol goes up by 1 penny, every American like freaks out, and I'm going.
No, his dad was just talking about that the other day.
It's literally like
the gas prices,
a fraction. What is it? A quarter of the cost of like filling up
it's ridiculous. Yeah,
your car here.
I think I mean, this just shows now what a bad environmentalist I am. I pay the same amount to fill up my 5.5 litre car here that I did to fill up my 1.2 at home. Like, the difference is staggering.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of stuff, like, depending on, I mean, listen, ideally in 10 years' time, 12 years' time, which is when the kids will be 18, our podcast will be earning us My Favorite Murder levels of money, in which case we won't need to worry about the cost of living anywhere, really.
In which case I'll definitely move back home and I'll be able to do Vicar Street all by myself. We'll zoom you in on a big screen.
I'll be a holograph.
Yeah. A holograph?
Hologram. I was like, what? What's wrong with that? I'll be a hologram.
God, you'd be a gas hologram. Can you imagine? I'd walk through you every second just for the laugh.
Oh, that would be so annoying. I'd be mid-sentence and you'd be like, ha ha, look at me. Yeah, so I think he would be open to living in Ireland for a while. But yeah, I think he is very, I mean, like, he's not very American in that, like, America's the best country in the world. I love America, in the way that, like, I feel like a lot of his friends are, and a lot of people I've met here are like, America's the greatest place on earth. And you're like, that's the biggest trick that they've...
American exceptionalism. I do wonder, though, what makes people feel settled. Like, what would... Because I do wonder if I went back to Ireland, would I be looking to move again in 5 years? Like, I haven't had like a place that I've stayed a very long time. This is the longest I've stayed since I was 21. And I do actually really like it. I really like, my house. I really like the fact that you're here. I like all my friends. I like my job. But I suppose these kind of existential questions of like, what's it all about? Do you know, what's life all about? Especially with an event like the pandemic, makes you think, what are you valuing? What are you caring about? And I think but I worry that if I went back to Ireland, would I be in 5 years' time going, okay, what's next? Like, I don't know how I feel, how Don and I become rooted somewhere anymore. I do have a very, what's the word, like a restlessness.
Like, have you just become a kind of a nomadic, like, do you just living a nomadic life, even, in your head, like theoretically? Yeah. Like, I have a friend who lived in the Middle East for, I think, 10 or 12 years and then moved home. She was essentially like, I really miss home, and she has a son, and she was like, I really want him to be at home. Kind of like all the things you're saying. And they moved home and they were at home for about a year. And then I think they went back to the Middle East. But I think they basically came home and they thought, I mean, I'm putting words in her mouth now, but I think, she was like, we'll come home and we'll have family, we'll have friends and we'll have this. And she was like, but actually some of her family's in Galway, some of her family's in Cork. A lot of her friends are in different areas. They all have their own lives. Everybody's very busy. And she was like, we actually didn't have as great a social life as I thought we would. And she enjoyed it more in the Middle East because they kind of lived in compounds. So there was more of a social life around that with expats, if you know what I mean. So they left and went back to the Middle East, but I think they were there less than a year. And now they're back in Ireland, apparently for good.
Oh.
So they kind of had a bit of a, like, oh, we want to be home, but it's not actually, it doesn't feel as much like home as I thought it would. So we'll go back. But then actually, no, I still miss home. So I don't know what'll happen. Like, I don't know what they'll do next, but I wonder, like, can you then settle after so long of kind of moving around? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I do wonder, I don't know that I have an idea of what it would be like anymore. I think it might be better to go back now with the kids, etc., because I don't have the same expectations. Like, I know my friends are all living in different places and have their own lives. Whereas I think when I was probably in my 20s, I would have expected to come back and slot right in to the way it was. Whereas now I don't know that I have those expectations. I think I'm more like, what would it be like? Where would I go? Also, what would I do? You know, what job would I have, etc.
Oh my God, you could flip houses. That'd probably be very lucrative in Ireland right now.
It's also very expensive to do.
Oh, very expensive. Yeah, you're right. And let's say all the contractors are like, Ara, no, I'm booked out till 2024.
Probably, yeah. But I mean, I don't, you know, it's more for the connectivity of the people, and obviously the sense of humor is gas.
But you know what? That's interesting that like the kind of sense of Irishness is so important. And yet you've never really thought that out in America. Sure, you haven't. Like, as in, you haven't ever really joined any like Irish clubs or like tried to meet up with the Irish community in certain areas, or like neither of us have. I remember somebody telling me that there's an Irish barman who works in J.K. O'Donnell's, and I was like, I'm not going like to find him. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I did work in the Irish pub in Milan and I loved it, but only Italian people went there, right?
Oh yeah.
So it was grand because I was actually like an authentic Irish person for the Italians to enjoy. But I suppose I've always felt like there was a big Irish community in New York.
Yeah.
But I didn't really like, I mean, lots of people were very involved in that, you know? And I mean, I had Irish friends in New York, and they would do a lot of these Irish community things and hang out with a lot of predominantly Irish people. But I mean, I suppose I always felt like, what's the point? Why am I here having an American experience if I'm going to hang out with Irish people? I mean, like I said, I did have Irish friends. Obviously, Julie's Irish,
loads,
you know?
Yeah.
I had lots of Irish friends, but I didn't do Irish themed things with them, whereas a lot of them did join Irish collectives or like celebrate Irish events, or were really involved in like doing things around Irish holidays.
And around the St. Patrick's Day parade. And like, I follow some people who live in New York who've like joined the GAA clubs in New York. Now, I know that would never be us anyway. Especially not at my advanced age. I'd be afraid I'd hurt myself.
Yeah, but I've always been very focused on like, what's the culture of the place you're in? You know, who are the people who are actually from here? Because it's kind of, I suppose there's that curiosity of like understanding other cultures. But that I think has then led me around to like, I'll never fully understand them. And I'm always slightly other. And I suppose that sense of belonging of like, is what I think I've missed out all these years. Mm-hmm. But again,
but this is why I'm so good at like when I'm belonging already. I'm saying garage. I'm saying trash.
You are. But then am I going to inflict on my children the same sense of not belonging? But you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm probably talking to myself. Like, our kids have moved around too, so they haven't. Yeah. And with the last year, we've been all at home. I'd say now Chance is starting school this year. Bo is in the equivalent of first class. So they're still very young. Mm-hmm. It's more Nash is going into fifth class. And I think that's the one that, like, he's the one that if it doesn't happen soon enough, like in the next 3 years,
it'll be harder for him.
It'll be much harder. I mean, I think at the beginning of secondary school, it's still fine. Like, you could, you know, those 6 years are pretty formative. And if you're in Ireland for that, but I mean, again, who knows? It's my dream. And I just don't know if I can. Because I mean, you have to take into account the practicalities of like, what would we do there? You know, Don's job's very specific. My job is very specific.
Yeah,
it has to
make
sense.
There are fewer opportunities because it's a smaller country and the industry isn't as big there. So I know you asked, how would I feel if you moved home? How would you feel if you moved home and I stayed here?
I mean, I'd feel guilty, right? I would feel guilty, but I also would feel like this is what we did for 20 years. Mm. And it's not like I'd be abandoning you. You're happy and you have a family and you're going to have a gorgeous baby. So, but I'd miss you also because it's like flying here is incredibly inconvenient. Mm.
What if he's not? What if he's a cret?
He won't be a cret. He'll be a cret on occasion.
Oh,
he'll be grand.
God.
Well, how would you feel?
I mean, I joke about it and I'm like, oh my God, I'd be raging. She's not allowed to move home. I'm making a face like, I don't care. But it's not at all that I don't care. I understand that that's something that you have always kind of talked about potentially wanting to do eventually.
It would be a cruel irony.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I guess I really have to remind myself, like, I came here because of you, right? Because you were here and you were like, why don't you apply and why don't you come in here for a while? But at the same time, I have to remind myself I didn't come here for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you didn't come here. You didn't really come here. You came here because I was here and it was convenient.
Yes,
it was something to do.
But that's what I mean. Like I'm like, if you hadn't been here, I wouldn't have come anywhere, really. Or like, if I had come to, but I would never have come to America. But if I had come to America, I would have gone to somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like Fort Wayne would not have been.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
But I mean, I've been gone for 20 years and you didn't.
No, of course.
You know, you didn't join me. Like, so.
No, so it was just like a kind of a synchronicity of circumstances and like different things.
Very nice.
Thanks. Maybe that's what I should call my book. Yeah, so I guess like I wouldn't be annoyed. Like I would be devastated. Do you know what I mean? Initially.
But then you'd be like,
And then I think I'd be like, there's
these...
just another person at home that I love and I have to see when I go home.
But you'd also be like, I don't have to do her laundry. I don't have to keep doing all these errands for her. I don't have to keep doing her hair appointments. She's not annoying me anymore with all these things, right?
The hair appointment's ridiculous.
Well, actually, I have a hair appointment next Wednesday that I might need you to reschedule for me. Love you. But also, we'd be doing our podcast, so we'd still have these chats on a weekly basis.
Sorry, but I'd also be like, I don't have access to a pool.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a bummer.
I can't go to Target with Sister Warbooks. Sometimes she takes me to Target and she buys me things.
You're my little sister.
I know, and I wouldn't be able to do that anymore. I'd have to come home and go to Penny's, which I'd actually be delighted to do.
I'd be sending you stuff from Penny's.
The dream.
I'd also be editing Mother's parcels to you.
I actually said to Mom the other day that if she was going to Penny's, and I sent her like a picture of a pair of shoes that I'd seen in a magazine. I was like, we see these in Penny's, will you get them for me and Beatrice? Like, get us each pair in different colours. She goes, oh, I went into Penny's this morning. They didn't have those shoes. What about these ones? Monstrous. Not even remotely
ungrateful.
The same. I know. But listen, Beatrice, I saved us both. I was like,
so ungrateful. You're a personal shopper.
Yeah, what can I say?
It's like sending stuff back to Stitch Fix. What was she thinking?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I used to give very stern feedback.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but like I literally asked for floaty dresses and you sent me jeans. Like, what were you thinking? It's summer in Indiana. I'm roasting. I'm pregnant.
Well, actually, there's another one. The weather.
Oh, yeah.
I have not lived in Irish weather. Now, Dallas was way too hot. I hated that. I like living somewhere that has the seasons, right? But does Ireland have the seasons or is it just one rainy season? Well, it's roasting right this summer. It was.
It's not roasting anymore, but yes. Yeah, it definitely has like a slightly sunny spring, rainy season, occasionally sunny. And then it has like rainy and grey for about 6 months.
Yeah, would that bother me?
You know what the problem is? The rain in Ireland isn't even the problem, it's the wind. Because the rain you can cope with an umbrella. But your umbrellas get destroyed the minute you step out the door. So you have to wear like a raincoat and you just get, you get destroyed. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so windy.
Do you know what I was going to say, just thinking about that petrol comment though, is that the reason everybody here is so obsessed with petrol is also because they do not use public transport.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in the big cities, yes. But here, everybody drives everywhere by themselves. Yeah. There is no bus route. There's no subway, there's no train, there's no Lewis, there's no tram.
And there's also not really a culture of let's go in one car. Everybody just drives individually from practically the same housing estate.
Well, that's funny because I said to Kerry the other day, who's just lives around the corner and works in my office, and she's just moved here, so she doesn't have her own car yet. And I said, when you get your car, we should carpool. Like she could pick me up.
Yeah.
Or I could pick her up, we take turns. Then I was like, but I'm kind of like, it's my 12 minutes of just being alone in the day, so maybe I need to keep it.
And also you don't need to bother because the petrol's so cheap.
Yeah, but that's not a reason to do it, right? It's more like, you can do your bit for the environment. But I was thinking it was a weird suggestion. But I do think that lends though to the sense of community or, that everybody's very isolated. And that's what I didn't like about Dallas either, is that when we lived in Dallas, you go to work, you drive home, you would park your car, you'd arrive there, click the button, the garage would go up, you go into your house, you're in your little box.
Yeah.
You leave. Like, unless you're, we had, little babies. So unless you're the member of some thing where you go and see people, but like I'd go for a walk around the neighborhood, nobody's out walking.
Yeah,
Nobody was anywhere to be seen.
Yeah. Like I remember when I was in Dublin and I would commute, you'd see this, like that, you'd see the same people on the bus. I remember I used to see this woman waiting for the bus every morning when we'd end up having these like ridiculous chats. Just this like older woman who lived near me. But you do, like you get to recognize people and like even as well, you know what I miss? I miss like small shops where you're like, I know the person in the vegetable shop. I know her name's Mary and like I'll chat to her and she'll tell me if the strawberries are shit. You know what I mean? Or when I say, where are these strawberries from? She'll go, do you want them or not? Which was her other favourite thing.
Nice.
I know. But yeah, you do get a sense of like, we all live here and we're all part of this.
You get a sense of being part of a throng of people, which like probably is not good now in COVID. But I mean, there's a sense of like, community being bigger than just the individual self. And I feel like there's also the context. Like you look around, you go, oh, there's people are different. There's sort of an awareness that there are other experiences, that there are other people, that not everybody's the same, not everybody goes to the same place. Whereas by only living in your own bubble and like by deliberately only traveling to the friend's house or to the people who you get on with, you don't kind of have that exposure.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like in New York, that was part of it. Like you were exposed to a lot more cross sections of people. Whereas when you're only driving back and forth to your job and your own house and your own friends, it's very kind of
insular.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I think it does make you more, like it makes you more tolerant as well, which is probably something that...
Well, I have noticed, I mean, I went to Atlanta for work there a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, I don't know if it's part of everybody's been used to being by themselves and having their things on their own schedule, their own way, etc. Everybody was extremely impatient, like extremely rude. Like at the check-in at the hotel, one woman was at the very back, nearly freaked when she thought somebody had cut through the line, which they had not, and then started screaming, "I need my hairdryer!" What? I know. You're like, okay, we're all waiting for a room. If you've got a room, if you're only missing a hairdryer, you've got a room. Go back to your room
and call them.
Yeah, go back to your room and chill it. You know, but everybody's like lost the ability to socialize. And I think that's an element also of this insularity. That everybody's just now living kind of very self-obsessed. And I think that is also, though, part of the difference in Ireland is that, like you said, you know, the cost of living is much higher, but so many things that you have to pay for here are paid for there. Like you don't realize that you don't have the same concern about like if something bad happens.
You know what? I was actually thinking earlier because I have this really bad pain in my ribs and I was joking about it and going, oh my God, maybe the baby's broken my ribs. And then I was suddenly like, well, I can't go to hospital anyway because we're uninsured until the 1st of September. I was like, so I just have to suck it up for the month of August and then go. Like if I did think it was broken. And that's mad. And
but
like,
that's the mentality of like the vast majority of Americans, right?
Yeah, because it has to be. Like
I can't afford to go and get this looked at because even just going to the ER, going to the emergency room for anything, even with insurance, is $1,000 bill.
Yeah. Well, like my prenatal appointments now are something like $500 a piece. Now, I only have 3 or 4 of them in the uninsured period, and then we'll be insured again from September. But like, it's still...
Yeah, because I was talking about this with Don. I was saying, you know, in Ireland and in Europe, like you don't see such discrepancies of wealth. Like you don't see so many extremely wealthy people and so many extremely, you know, poor people. But you see everybody kind of lives in this sphere of pretty similar. Like there's a range, you know, but everybody kind of lives in that range. And then there are a couple of people who are extremely wealthy or who inherited it or who started a business and were extremely successful. And they're the exception, you know, but they're kind of a handful of people. But in America, there's these vast gulfs of wealth and like wealth that, you know, you couldn't ever achieve as somebody just with a job in Ireland. Like those salaries don't exist, you know. But I was saying to Don, but in a way, while the cost of living is higher, and I'm not trying to oversimplify, and I'm sure I know it, like the cost of living is actually ridiculously high, right? But you do get so much back, you know, or at least so much, there's so much of there's something that you're getting back, like education, you know, like 3rd level education.
Yeah.
Like you have these things, these massive outlays here are not part of the consideration.
Yeah. I think there's a sense in Ireland and like in a lot of European countries where they have kind of a socialized democracy that you'll be looked after to a certain extent. I mean, and I know some people fall through the cracks.
And obviously we're seeing like how a lot of it is falling through right now, especially, you know, and like with the homeless situation and housing, etc. Yeah. But for the main part, like imagine what the situation would be like here with none of those safety cushions, you know?
Yeah, so much worse.
So having said that, why would either of us want to stay? We should just be straight back on the boat. Not the QE2, just the boat. To Ireland.
God, that's depressing. Why do I want to stay now? When my husband I love.
Delighted. The weather's nice.
The weather is nice, got a pool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I do like... I mean, people keep telling me about how once I have the baby and I'm going out for walks with my buggy and I'm like, lol, joke's on you because as soon as it starts snowing, I'll be going nowhere.
Also, you love DoorDash. You can order anything you want.
Yeah, but I had delivery at home, so that was just as good.
Yeah, but you can order anything. You can order Target to your door.
I know, yeah. I tried to order cereal the other day and then I decided to just get up and drive the 3 minutes to the shop. You would have been proud of me.
I am proud of it.
Thank you all so much for listening to Not Without My Sister. The conclusion of which is Beatrice is hoping to be home. I'm hoping to be home for several visits. I need to go to Bread 41. I mean, that's not the most important thing in the world. We're all hoping to see our parents someday soon. Mm-hmm. If you're considering emigrating, I hope that this helped give you a perspective on what it's like to be here for a short time from me and then to be here for a long time from B, and helps you think about what you might miss and maybe what you mightn't. Yeah, we will catch you next time for another stunning episode of Not Without My Sister.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Not Without My Sister is produced by Liam Geraghty, sound and original music by Don Kirkland, and our original illustration is by Lindsay Nielsen.
Not Without My Sister is a member of The Warren, the home of great Irish podcasts. As is my podcast, Meet Your Maker. You'll find more great shows at thewarren.ie.